Welcome to the Food Bank Show. Now, yesterday we had the brilliant Dr. Dan Maggs on and the incredibly talented Lou Walker, who's done all that research around the cake culture and talking about how, when we're supporting our nurses and our doctors at the moment, lots of people taking in cakes and biscuits and so on. And yet, of course, that's just adding to the problem. Everybody's doing it, of course, because they're trying to be kind and giving back and sort of random acts of kindness, which is so important to show our appreciation of the brilliant work the NH staff team are all doing. But Lou Walker got in touch with me at about 5 o'clock this morning and dropped me an email and said, by the way, one thing we can do, and her organisation, which we're going to bring a URL up on screen right now, they are offering free coaching to NHS staff. So normally you'd pay the health coaches, but they are offering free coaching right now to NHS employees. So if you know anybody that's a nurse or a doctor or a key worker at the NHS, if you go to ukhealthcoaches.com, there's some free coaching on how to be healthy there for our brilliant NHS staff. Right, today we're going to be joined first in a moment by Jon Burgess, who's a wellbeing coach. And then later in the show, we're going to go down to sunny Devon, North Devon, near Croydon. And we're going to speak to Emma Greenfield from the Nutritional Trust to find out how the Southwest...
Greenwood.
Pardon?
You're so bad with the reading.
What have I done now?
Greenwood.
What did I say?
Greenfield.
Did I? You sure it's not your hearing? Okay, my son's disagreeing with me already. Say hello to Jack, my 18-year-old wayward son from Bristol University. Of course, isn't a Bristol University at all.
Bristol University? What's your...
Bath University. See, I've lost it all today. It's been a long old night. There's Jack, my son. I got his name right. From Bath University. And I'm not speaking to Emma Greenfield, as I apparently said. I'm speaking to Emma Greenwood from the Nutritional Trust. And by the way, thank you for all your donations you've been making. It's making a huge difference. If you'd like to text a donation during the show, the text number is up there, and we will double as a family any of your text donations. Or if you want to go to Just Giving and make a donation on Just Giving, again, my family have agreed to match pound for pound your donations. And it really is making a huge difference. I was talking to Emma earlier on this morning, and she was saying that while we haven't hit the numbers we thought we'd hit yet, they're seeing a bigger awareness of the brilliant work that the food banks are doing. So thank you for everybody that's watching, spreading the word, letting people know about how important it is to support our food banks across the UK. And also remember our competition. Our competition is our food facts. And what we're saying is that if you go back on all the previous shows, find the green box on the food fact, just write down what the food type we were talking about is, list as many as you can. And when we come out of lockdown, seriously, I think we're going to see some easing, not this week, but probably the week after. So we've probably got only another 10 or so of these shows to do. And as we start to ease lockdown, we'll then find a winner. And we're going to ask you to tell us all the different food facts you can remember. Yesterday, I think it was Brussels sprouts. I'll give you a little bit of a clue, but you better go and check just in case I've got that one wrong. And today we're going to talk about onions, because onions are so good for our health, whether it be white onion or red onion. One tip though, when you peel your onions, take a little bit more time than normal, because what I used to do was cut it in half, peel loads, and really I'd lose probably outer two sort of rings of the onion. The reality is nearly all the goodness, nearly all the antioxidants are in those last couple of layers. So once you've peeled the skin off, all the goodness is in the next couple, or not all of it, most of the highest concentration of nutrients are in those outer layers. So try and maintain those. They're also good as what we call a prebiotic. They help sort of build the environment in the stomach, in the guts, that the probiotics, like the good probiotics, like to feed off. So today's fact is number 31. It is onions. And also keep sending us in any food that you've cooked for the first time. Go to Facebook, go to Primal Living on Facebook, and share with us your photographs of things that you maybe have cooked for the first time with a bit of a description. And also we're having a competition there. We'll pick our favourite looking sort of photograph or recipe that you've created, and there'll be prizes for those too at the end of lockdown. So with all the housekeeping out the way, but well, one more bit of housekeeping. Do today. Jon has said he loves the integration of the show with you at home. So any questions you've got for Jon Burgess, our Wellbeing Coach, do get them in during the show. And between us, we will try and answer as many of them as possible. So let's go to Jon Burgess in his man cave in the bottom of his garden. How are you, Jon?
Very well, thank you. Feel very safe as well down here in my cave. Yes. Good morning.
Safe what, from the children or from the rest of the world?
Yeah, the children, yeah, and the whole school learning thing, etc. I'm working online at home, so yeah, luckily I've got support of my wife to help out with that.
Yeah.
And thank you to her if she's watching, by the way.
Well done, Jon's wife. What's your wife's name, Jon?
Natasha.
Natasha, well done to you, and well done to my wife, Sarah, who's upstairs somewhere doing...
Who's definitely not watching.
Say that again?
Who's definitely
not watching. Yeah, you're right. My wife's definitely not watching because she is doing the schoolwork right now. So, Jon, I've got loads of questions. Shall we dive straight in?
Love to.
Okay, so in your day-to-day job, you do a lot of speaking around nutrition. Why is the food we eat fundamentally so important?
Great question. And fundamentally, it's about we are what we eat. And so that food that we're eating is creating the cells in our body. And that impacts everything. I mean, it impacts our energy levels for one. So then if our energy levels are impacted, then it's going to affect our emotions, our motivation, our enthusiasm, our resilience, our mood. It also influences physically the way our body functions, from our circulation to our joint health, to our skin, to our brain function as well, and our immune system. So, I mean, everything's connected. As we know, we're a system of systems in our body, and the food is the fuel to get those systems working, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think probably every adult has heard that phrase at some stage, you are what you eat. But I don't think many people stop and think about that, because it isn't just one of those sort of throwaway sayings. It is so central, isn't it, to our health? You know, understanding you are a sum of what you eat, really.
Yes. We're made up of trillions of cells, is the way I put it, and from our brain cells, our hair, to our little toe, and everything in between. So we are walking, talking cells, and those cells are made from the food we're eating. So for me, that's the most important connection for people to make in their mind, because then you can look back and go, well, what have I eaten in the last 7 days that's created my cells?
Yeah, absolutely. And I wrote my first health book on page 25, a thing called A New You. And what I had no idea before I got into this space, that so much of the human body, in fact, pretty much with the exceptions of our teeth and our eyes and certain parts of the brain, our entire body is in a constant state of repair and replacement. So I wrote some down, for example. Our complete skeleton is regenerated and replaced every 10 years or so. So every bone in our body is replaced about every 10 years. Our lungs are replaced every 6 weeks, and our liver in less than 6 months. And the 9,000 taste buds are rejuvenated every 10 days. So in the computer world, don't we say something called GIGO, which is garbage in, garbage out. So if we are constantly replacing everything from our skin, our bones, our liver, our lungs all the time, then the question is, what are you replacing it with? And my understanding is that aging process is simply that of not replacing like for like. It's getting worse and worse and worse with the new replacements. So how do you replace it with like for like, or in some ways, you know, I've bashed my liver way too much years with alcohol. You know, I've got to try and make a better liver next time round. and therefore you are what you know, the sum of what you eat. Is that am I on the right sort of track there, do you think? Or?
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's a great reminder of how incredible we are and our bodies are, and to literally think there's a new us a new lung every 6 weeks, you know, a new us. We're being constantly rejuvenated if we choose the right choices. And I really love what you shared there. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. And because back to another phrase we're hearing a lot at the moment, it's just so true, sadly, in our nation, not in every nation. Even worse in America with their sad diet. But we are what we eat, but at the moment we are overfed in some ways, and that's why we're all a little bit overweight in the UK. We're overfed, but at the same time, we're undernourished.
Yes, it was one of the things I was going to share myself, so we're on the same page here.
Go for it, go for it. Take that as take that as the introduction for your next bit.
Overfed and undernourished. I mean, that is just happening so much these days. We're not short of calories. People are getting plenty of those. But we generally, people are short on nutrients. I mean, just thinking about how the food industry has changed as well. We know that we would have to eat way more apples today to get the same nutrition we'd have got from one apple 100 years ago. And that's if we're getting it from the usual sources of supermarkets, etc. generally. So there's lots of reasons why our food industry has changed and why it's more difficult potentially now to get nutrients from our food than it used to be before.
Yeah, and stop and think about the apple for a second. You're right. 100 years ago, probably from it being picked to you consuming it, what, a day, couple of days? Have you heard that statistic on the internet at the moment, what the average length is from it being picked to being sold in the supermarket? Have a guess.
Months, I imagine. 3 months.
A year. A year.
A year?
A year. From picking the apple to us being sold, I read on the internet recently, in fact, I think Dr. Shanna Sain quoted it as well in one of his podcasts, that it can be a year from it being picked to being sold in the supermarket. They keep them in these oxygen-free or controlled environments, waiting for the computer to find 4 that look identical to pack it for us, because we as silly consumers have gone, well, they've got to all look the same. And that is the problem we've got today. You know, we keep trying to blame the supermarkets and the big food companies, but in some ways it's us as consumers have changed what we think looks like real food. You know, we want the straight banana. Well, we don't really want the straight banana. They want that to get more in a container ship. But it's just bonkers. So you're absolutely right. How many apples would you have to eat to get the same nutritional density, same gram for gram of nutrition today compared to 100 years ago?
Yeah, and the moment the apple is picked from the tree is the moment it starts to lose nutrition. So we want to be getting that nutrition in us as soon as we can from being picked. So this is why it's so important to go and support local farm shops, local farmers who are producing fantastic crops with low or little use of pesticides, and ideally none at all. If it's organic, we can support that too, because it supports the environment as well as our body. On top of that, we've also got the thing to remember, which is about the soil. Because there's been over farming, growing population, that means that the soil has been stripped from a lot of nutrition. And going back to 1999, I think it was, there was an Earth Summit report that was done, and it showed that there was a 72% loss of minerals in the soil in Europe, in the UK, and in many of the continents were all around 70%. So, and that was back then. So we've been pulling and pulling and pulling from the nutrition from the soil without letting the crops, the soil rest, the fields rest, and rotating the crops and letting the nutrients build back up again. So, there's many reasons why we need to be, I believe, extra careful now and so proactive about learning and understanding and seeking where to source our food from. Yes, it takes a little bit of time to begin with, but once you've done it and you know where to get that food from and you know your great choices, that investment you spent learning that is paid off no end, because it just becomes our new norm.
Yeah, I think if we win at my biggest campaign at the moment is trying to get the government to get rid of the Eat Well guideline. Just scrap it completely, or if you don't scrap it, at least have 10 different ones for different types of people, those that are trying to lose weight, those that are trying to put weight on, those that are diabetic. And so if we win that war, which we hope we will, because we've got a lot of people behind it, I think then the next fight has got to be what you've just said, is to try and get government to support real farmers, those that grow organically, those that rotate their crops properly, because at the moment it's not financially incentive friendly, if you like, for farmers to do what is needed to be done, which is that constantly rotating your crops from one crop to the other, putting back into the ground, and then stop the crops for a while, put the cattle back on to replenish naturally the soil, because we are just killing the soil. And that's the one thing, and that is when the food's even grown in soil in the first place, because today to try and give us fruit and veg all year round, we're growing most of them inside of big warehouses, not even in soil at all, called hydroponically, in this like wool type solution, and therefore we're just not getting the minerals we used to get. I mean, if your salad vegetables didn't grow in soil, they grew hydroponically, where's the zinc, where's the magnesium, where's it all going to come from?
I really don't know. And for me, I have compassion for these farmers. They're being squeezed on their prices by the supermarkets so they can make more profits, but also because of the demand for cheap food. Yeah. And so I think it also is driven by consumerism and making sure that we are prepared to pay a fair price for high quality food. If you think about it, and it's probably shifted a little bit in the last few weeks, but the percentage of our income that is spent on food has reduced significantly. It used to be about 25% back in the 1930s, 40s. 25% of our income was spent on food. And now, or pre-coronavirus, certainly, it was more like 10%. So it's important that I prioritise food. One of my favourite sayings is, what is it now? It's slipping from my mind. Are you paying your body the minimum wage? One of my teachers, Paul Check, said that, and I love that quote, because many people are. I believe our bodies are more valuable than the most expensive sports car you can imagine, and yet many people are spending money on things less important than their body. They spend more money on their cars, they service it, they put the right fuel in for one, and so we're spending, generally, for years, we've been spending money on less important things than the quality of food, whether that's the clothes that we wear, the holidays we go on, the entertainment trips. There's so much more we can spend money on that people have prioritised things, in my opinion, in the wrong way.
Yeah, I was just trying to find it. It's in my latest book. Patrick Holden, that ran the Sword Association for 20 years, gave me that statistic recently, and it is something like we used to spend a third of our disposable income on our food, and today it is around 10 or 12%. So we're spending it, like you say, on many other things. And I think that's because we've lost sight of what's important, for our health. And back to your point at the very beginning, if we're constantly repairing and rebuilding our body, then we need to be spending the right money on it. Otherwise, we're just going to all fall apart. And then a lot of people say, well, actually eating healthily, costs more money. And it probably does in the beginning. But my argument is that go 2 months down the line, when you've stopped snacking in between the meals and you've stopped the cans of fizzy pops and you stopped the sweets and the crisps, because you're no longer, your taste buds have changed, and therefore you don't want all those bits in between. And maybe you've gone from 3 meals a day down to 2, or like I do, it's just one meal a day. Actually, I can eat now completely organic meat, organic food, vegetables and everything, cheaper than my lifestyle before, because I'm just not consuming as much.
And people become so much more productive, the positivity, the energy they get. I've seen many clients actually improve, their businesses improve, and their careers, they progress further and quicker than they would have done, because they just feel so different mentally, physically. Their decision making is sharper, and they're more productive. So yeah, it really pays back. And ill health certainly is an expensive game. And the days sick that people have lost if they were in their own businesses, for example, can be huge. So yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people say, well, I'm in a job, I get paid sick leave, so I don't care if I'm sick or not. Well, actually, you might get your sick pay while you're off, but you ain't going to get the next promotion if you're sick note Joe and you're never in work. So it hits you financially there, and I don't know, there's just so many. And back to what you just said then, I spent all those years obese, like 25 years running my business obese, always with brain fog. The carbohydrates were caught. Thank you, son. Thank you, son. Thank you, son, again. He loves that slide. That's his favourite slide of his dad. But all those years running my companies, the brain was never as clear as it is today. And you know, carbohydrate fog, I call it. So loads and loads of benefits. So other than maybe the fogginess, what other conditions might occur as a result of a poor diet?
Yeah. Oh, there's many, I think, that can be related back, if not all. And you know, type 2 diabetes is, for me, one of the biggest, because it's such a drain on the NHS, and very lifestyle related. The type 2, 90%, you know, of diabetes is type 2 generally. So that's the biggie. The other one for me that is the acid reflux as well, that many people are struggling with. And some people have been on medication for years and still struggling with their acid reflux. I know a pharmacist, and I just asked her a little while back and said, you know, what is the most prescribed medication at the moment? And right up there, really in the top two, was omeprazole. And you know, with the right diet, and I see it all the time with clients, you know, they go through my 21-day nutrition kickstart program, and within 3 weeks, if not earlier, it's just not there. It's not existing. They don't need the omeprazole, and we know there's many side effects from that. It could be really, and the acid reflux really has a knock-on effect on sleep, which, you know, I'm passionate about, and then that affects the energy the next day, then the food choices the next day, and there you go. You know, it's a chain reaction going on in a lot of ways. Then you've got, you know, hormones becoming unbalanced as well, joint health, skin, you know, so many things that can be impacted. I know with the skin, I see a lot of people who might have eczema, psoriasis, and they take their dairy out and they've reduced their gluten in a lot of ways, and their skin feels so much more vibrant. And so yeah, lots of diseases. Heart disease, I could go on.
In fact, back to your sleep one there, you know, I used to, in those years of being fat and overweight and obese, running the companies, I used to have sayings like, if you rest, you rust. The early bird catches the worm. And I'd be up at like 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 3 some days if I'm talking to people abroad, and feel so righteousness about, hey, I'm up before everybody else, that's why business is going well. And now I've realized that was such a complete mistake, because I might have been up a little bit earlier than everybody else, but I wasn't functioning properly at all. The brain was never clear. The decision-making process was never as good as it is today. So now I get up, you know, well, I still get up early, but I go to bed really early. And I just find that, yeah, okay, I sleep more, but I'm actually awake a lot more, if you know what I mean. In other words, before I might have only had 4 hours sleep, but I was never really awake. I was half asleep while I thought I was awake, whereas now I do get my 7 to 8 hours every day, most of the time, unless the little one gets up. But I'm, you know, in the rest of the hours I'm awake, those 16 hours, I'm so much more productive.
Yeah. You know, I think there's many people that can be sleepwalking potentially because of poor sleep. So in the daytime, they're walking and they're moving, and there's a level of function, but yeah, it's a poor one. And actually, people, if they're not resting properly, can be on the road to burnout if they're pushing their body, their mind, you know, 24/7, and not letting the body get the rest it really, really needs. Then yeah, burnout's not a fun thing either. So
Add life to your years. Add life to your years was a comment yesterday that we had up from one of our brilliant watchers, and I'm actually going to turn that into my company's new strap line. I love it. Here's an interesting one. I can't remember who asked this one for you. Can tiredness cause sugar cravings, and if so, why?
yeah, it certainly can. Tiredness coming from things like sleep again, stress, poor food choices can all make people feel tired. And what happens when we feel tired, often our blood sugar levels can be low as well. And people going on this blood sugar roller coaster, as I call it. And when the blood sugar levels are low, the body produces cortisol, the hormone, the stress hormone we know, because it knows that cortisol will lift the blood sugar. Even if there wasn't going to be food, it'll lift up blood sugar levels. And so when we're down low, tired, blood sugar levels low, we crave sugar. And so, because it's the quickest source of energy in a lot of ways. So, but what goes starts off really low can shoot us through the roof because the body's crying out for something to get the blood sugar up quickly. When the blood sugar level's low, we're not feeling like, do you know what, I could really do with a piece of chicken and a few vegetables. It's not going on in the mind. The body's craving sugar. So yeah, that's why I believe, looking at the whole lifestyle to help our energy levels, it's about making sure we're doing the exercise, the right pace, the right levels of exercise. We're looking at the right sleep. We're looking at hydrating. We're looking about relaxation and scheduling that in so we're not overly stressed, as well as the nutrition. Because when you're doing all of those things, the energy levels are better. And when they're better, life is better, in my opinion.
Absolutely, 100%. And over the last sort of 5 or 6 weeks doing this daily program, speaking to so many new experts that I hadn't interviewed before, I think one thing that I've really picked up on is that how much subconscious thinking is going on in the brain around food, and subconsciously, exactly what you've just said there, when we're low on energy, the brain just knows that the quickest way to get a quick instant fix is carbohydrates and sugar. It just knows that. It's learnt that. It might have even been born with it in our DNA, and therefore the brain is saying to you, go get sugar, go and get carbohydrates. We know that's going to give you a quick burst of energy, but what the brain doesn't realize is that quick burst of energy lasts for such a short period because it raises insulin, and then that comes along, grabs the sugar, stores it as body fat, that actually, if we could have just stopped and thought about it for a second, that bit of chicken, that bit of meat, that green vegetables, while the energy hit wouldn't have been so quick, it would have been more sustainable. And the other one I found when I was turning from a sugar burner into a fat burner was what I'd do in the morning. I'd just put butter, or I'd put coconut into my coffee, and that gave me almost as instant hit as sugar.
Yeah. And you reminded me with what you shared there about the subconscious mind at the moment and how it can trigger things. The other thing I think, particularly while we've been in lockdown as well, is the awareness of what I call mind the gap. Like down in the underground, there's always saying, mind the gap. And it's minding the gap in our day-to-day lives while we're at home, because food is readily available at cupboards right by us. It's no one's stopping us going and grabbing things. And I think right now we're being made to stop through lockdown and have more quiet and still time. But maybe people have been so busy in their lives that they've not been used to living in that gap of silence, that in between time between jobs or between online calls, etc. And it's important that we get comfortable with that. We don't fill that gap with food as a trigger. So I want to say to everybody now, mind the gap. Mind the gap. And if you find yourself reaching into cupboards and snacks, ask yourself why. Is it just boredom and wanting to fill time? Yeah,
that's really, really interesting. Mind the gap. I love that. That will be inscribed on my wall as a Jon Burgess quote. Thank you very much. But yeah, you're right. And quite often when we think we're hungry, in fact, we're not hungry for energy. We've probably got loads of energy, either in our fat stores or glycogen within the liver. Quite often, again, the brain can't tell you whether it's hungry for food or it's lacking a certain nutrient or a certain vitamin. And the brain can't decipher. It knows it needs something, but it doesn't know whether it's energy it needs or the fact that you haven't had selenium or vitamin C or zinc in your diet. And therefore, a lady that we had on about 3 or 4 months ago was an investigative journalist, Nina Teicholz. She said that when you wake up in the morning, if you feel hungry, first go for your multivitamin and your vitamins, because you might find that after you've taken that a few minutes later, you're not hungry at all. And it's not that that's giving you any energy. It's just that's what your brain was crying out for, not for food, for energy, but for good nutrition.
Yeah, just been on the prowl searching for nutrition. And certainly I used to be on that blood sugar roller coaster before. My body was nutrient poor, but calorie high, teaching lots of exercise classes. And, I very rarely get hungry, in the daytime. It's just nice and steady. The other thing I'd add to that as well is hydration. So sometimes our body gets confused between hunger and thirst because it knows it can get water from certain foods. So a large glass of water with the multivitamins and a healthy breakfast, and it just sets us up for the day, you know. So yeah, I'm a big fan of supplementation. I take a lot myself too.
Yeah, and on that water one, isn't that so interesting? You know, I've got a doctor friend who says nearly all, it's not all the time, but nearly all the time when somebody comes in, his first question is, "Are you hydrated? How much water have you had?" He says, because you can cure so many things where people are obviously not full on illness, but quite often people are just not hydrated, and then people get confused. Well, I have plenty of coffee and loads of tea and a glass of wine, and the reality is all those things actually dehydrate you even further. So in fact, if you're having the coffee, you need even more water. If you're having a cup of tea, you need even more water. You can put some lemon in and some lime in, that won't dehydrate you, but hydration is so important, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I quote Dr. Batman Geladi, or I call him Dr. Batman for short, an Iranian doctor who's written a book called The Body's Many Cries for Water. And he's written several books all about water. And when people think, well, how much should I be having? There's a great calculation in his book. He recommends 0.033 times your body weight in kilograms. And that tells you how many litres of water your body needs a day. And I always say to people, if you're far off that, then gradually build up bit by bit to those numbers, and add a bit more, and at least half a litre if someone's exercising for an hour as well.
Yeah, it's amazing, certainly in the summer and exercising, how quickly we dehydrate, isn't it? Shall we have a look at questions that are coming for you, John? I'm sure there's plenty of them.
Please do, yeah.
All right, good morning, everybody. And again, thank you for all your questions that are coming in. Louise says, laugh out loud, work in the NHS. When I take in fruit, it gets ignored. Cakes disappear in second. That was talking about yesterday's. We've just got to change our culture, Louise. We have to. Marvelous says, what about spring onions, please, Steve? Yes, spring onions are also fantastic. And don't just chop the end off a little bit with a stubbly bit, but also work your way. A lot of people I see just get rid of all the green bits. Don't. Chop the ends off, give them a good clean. Use the entire spring onion. Jackie says, well done to everybody. And then, yes, 2 days ago for the first time, I even cooked turnips. Great taste, just boiled and put a sauce, tomato and sour fresh cream. Oh, that sounds great. My mother told me that her grandparents were cooking this all the time. That is brilliant. Right, Nick has asked you, John, what % of health is food versus exercise?
Putting it in percentage, I've never been asked that question before. What percentage of health is food rather than exercise? I mean, I don't always tend to separate, but I would always prioritize nutrition above movement, because it's the fuel that's going to help the movement. So, I mean, I look at it, I think I mentioned in one of our previous interviews, is we're making sure that, you know, we're breathing properly as a priority, we're hydrating properly second, we're sleeping properly third, but only just, then nutrition, then movement. So I don't know, if I was to look at that percentages, I'd put the most in breathing, the next most in hydration, maybe nutrition. I don't know, out of all of that, 50%, 40%. I haven't done the numbers in my head, and I'm not that quick on that. So, but it's above movement, in my opinion.
Now, Ivor, you've got the date wrong for the Indian festival of Holy Holy, where we throw paint powder over each other, or your internet signal's not as strong as it was at the beginning. But you've gone green and blue, or you're not hydrating properly.
Well, I know it's not the latter. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great. And, you know, what's that? Pop art. You look like pop art at the moment, but don't worry, you still look handsome. So, I mean, great question by Nick. And I always say this, you know, for so many years, people were labelled as being lazy when they were, you know, overweight or obese. Well, you must be lazy. But the point is, I think it's the chicken and the egg. You get lazy because you get tired, because you've got no energy. In fact, then when you try and cut down all the calories, sometimes you get even more sort of low on energy. And I always say, try and get your nutrition right first. And certainly don't go from no exercise to trying to run marathons and things. You've got to build. The best thing you can do is get your nutrition right first, Nick, and then get out and walk. Just walk. Walking is a man's best medicine. So Don't beat yourself up if you don't jog, or you see those people jogging. Don't worry about it to start off with. Just get your nutrition right, and then you'll find you have more energy, and with that energy you just almost fall into exercise. Don't know if you kind of agree with that.
With the exercise, certainly, if someone hasn't been a regular exercise, it's the consistency that's key. This is what a lot of people now are noticing improvements in their exercise, because they've been doing around about 30 minutes every day whilst we've been in lockdown. And whereas typically what people might do is try an exercise, try too hard, get put off, come back again, then try again, and it's one step forward and one step back. Within a few weeks, 2-3 weeks of doing consistently 30 minutes, little and often, every day, it's amazing how people notice their energy levels are improving, they're feeling fitter, it's getting easier. So, little and often.
Little and often, Nick, with your exercise, but not your food.
Yeah.
Kind of the opposite with food. Feast and famine with food. Little and often doesn't give the body a chance to recover, but with exercise, going out and walking, I'm totally with John there. Get out and try and do some walking every day. And Jackie guessed 75-25. I mean, it's so hard to put a number on it, and I think it's, I mean, having confessed in my book, I did put a number on it. I said 80-20. I think it's, you know, if you're overweight, it's 80% kitchen, 20% gym. You know what I mean? It's like 80% what you put in and 20% what you put out, I think. But I think it's different.
And there's and there's a quote I just want to throw in there as well, is that you can't out-train bad diet either when it comes to exercise.
Yeah, can't out-train a bad diet. And then Asim Malhotra said a great one the other day. He says, you can't outrun your fork. Isn't that great? You can't outrun your fork, which I thought was great. I've always said I'd like to make a clip for the telly or for YouTube. I'd like to get somebody like Mo Farah on a running machine, right? Next to somebody who loves, say, McDonald's, sitting next to them, wired up with all the doctors there observing everything, to see if Mo Farah flat out on a running machine could burn calories faster than somebody stuffing their mouth full with McDonald's. Because the answer is absolutely, I know already, no, you can't. You know, you could run, I used to run marathons and I was obese, and I'd finish and I'd have a fizzy pop, probably a Lucozade full of energy, and then a Mars bar to reward myself to get the energy back. And in that one can of pop, I think one can of pop takes more than 50 minutes to get you back to zero. And yet I was taking on board more after my run every day than I was burning running. I mean, just crazy, just crazy. And I'm the proof it doesn't work, because I was massively fat, as my son keeps showing everybody. Gemma says, is it okay to have vitamins on an empty stomach? What's your advice on that one, John?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the vitamin as well. I mean, I tend to take probiotics on an empty stomach. However, I'll take a lot of my vitamins with food, because my body's already working at breaking down those foods. So the digestive system is functioning and alive, so it's much more likely to break down those supplements as well. So I tend to have mine in the middle of my meal if they're tablet formed ones. My liquid ones I keep separate to my meals.
That's good advice. I mean, my take on that one is, I mean, I'm a nomad. I don't eat till the evening. And one of the things you lack if you don't take your vitamins with food sometimes is a good carrier to get it to where it needs to go. So my recommendation is to make sure you're taking omega-3 at the same time, or some other oil, because as you take that oil, it helps transport the vitamins to where they need to go. But ideally, with a meal, but it's not the end of the world without. I know if I have too many B vitamins in the morning, I can go a bit lightheaded for only for about a minute or two. So what I personally do, I take nearly all mine in the morning, and the only ones I tend to take in the evening are my zinc and magnesium, because they also help with a good night's sleep. But if I'm going to tell you the official line, Gemma, it is normally best with food. Hannah says, what are the best tips for remembering to stay hydrated? I keep forgetting to drink during the day and try to avoid plastic bottles.
Yeah, well, the first thing is, as soon as you wake, have a large glass of water. Get into the routine of doing that so that it's second nature. The other thing is there's something called anchoring. When you look at mindset work, when we attach it to something else that we always do, it will form that anchor and that habit. So we end up doing that other thing, and we'll think about the water there and then. So you know, if you have something that you generally do 3-4 times a day, then think about anchoring a large glass of water to that. Other thing is, as I know you mentioned on a previous show I was interviewed with Steve, is I know, you know, having a water bottle with you, fill it up at the beginning of the day, you set your intention by doing that, and then make sure wherever it is that you're going, you take this with you, and you'll just find yourself sipping away at it throughout the day. And so that's probably the best tip.
Yeah, and this sounds absolutely so stupid to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. Find a water bottle you like, because I found my wife was useless at staying hydrated. But when she found, I don't know whether aesthetically or how it feels in the hand, but she's found one she's almost like attached to. And now she's hydrating all the time. So find a water bottle. It has to be BPA free because I don't want any chemicals in there, but find one that you just fall in love with that bottle, and then you'll find you use it more. And I'll also say as well, while I say coffee and tea doesn't hydrate, there are lots of things you can throw into water that will still hydrate you and maybe add some extra vitamins and minerals at the same time. So find something that you like putting in. So for years, I always put a slice of lemon in, which I enjoyed. And then recently, a friend of mine said, "You like ginger, don't you?" And I went, "Yeah, I love ginger." She said, "Why don't you put a bit of ginger in at the same time?" And we were away on holiday together. So I did that, and it just took my morning water to a whole new level. So I would say find something you like to put into that water if you find water boring. But eventually, you just get used to being hydrated, and like you say, anchoring it to things will definitely help. But also, I think that once you start realizing the benefits and the way you feel, then you tend to drink more water anyway.
Yeah, and the thing to remember as well is why water is so essential. One of the reasons why is our blood plasma is about 92% water, or ideally should be. Now think about this for a moment. If we're dehydrated, our blood will become thicker and stickier. It'll be slower, means that our circulation is going to be slower. The delivery of oxygen nutrients to all our cells is going to be impacted. So by hydrating properly, you literally improve your circulation in your delivery system as well, because the blood will circulate more easily.
Yeah, absolutely. And so anchoring it, you said, is important. Finding a nice water bottle is important. And there are so many health benefits. I always find with me, if I'm trying to get into a new thing to eat, or cutting down on something I shouldn't be doing, try and find what the trigger is for you on the health benefits. So do a bit of research on why water is good for you. You might be somebody that really wants to keep their skin looking young, and then you read that actually hydration is one of the best things to stop the skin from wrinkling, and that might be the bit that floats your boat. You might find that, like Jon's just said, you're worried about blood being sticky or low on energy. Find the thing on that list. The thing that's helped me cut my alcohol down a bit was, I'd never worried about the liver. You could keep telling me till the cows come home that it's damaging your liver, and I go, well, I have a new liver every now and again anyway, so as long as I'm not going too mad with it, it's not. But then somebody said too much alcohol ruins your microbiome. Well, I've just spent a year studying the microbiome, and I went, well, that's the bit for me. That's the bit for me, because I don't want to ruin the microbiome. But also, too much alcohol for men gives you men boobs, because it increases the amount of estrogen. That could be the one for some men to say, I don't want to become female. And therefore, so just find what it is with water that's going to float your boat and make you have more of it. And when we say more of it, that there is a limit. You don't want to overhydrate, because if you overhydrate, you can deplete the salt levels in the body. But I would think more people are underhydrated than overhydrated. Primal Living have just come on, company I'm associated with, and said, for daily food inspiration, don't forget you can also follow the Instagram page on Instagram for Primal Living, where you're going to find loads of cooking tips. Marvelous says, listening to your show, no bread, just one biscuit here and there. My dessert now is berries and yogurt, but tea. My tea is without milk and slices of a lemon in it. Woo! And a bit of honey. Is this dehydrating? So, depends what sort of tea you're having, and it depends on the caffeine levels in your tea. But if you're on a herbal tea without caffeine, my understanding would be that that's not dehydrating, that's probably hydrating. Any thoughts on that one, Jon? Whether a tea without caffeine is adding to hydration, or is it dehydrating?
Yeah, absolutely adding. Yeah, I mean, I regularly have cinnamon teas, peppermint and licorice. Love, getting myself some organic loose tea as well.
Can I just stop
So
you there?
peppermint
Can,
tea.
can I just stop you there? Peppermint and licorice. That sounds gorgeous. Right, that's going on my shopping list. Is that nice?
Oh, it is. It is. It's really nice, and it's great for those people who have a few sugar cravings as well. It's the same with the cinnamon tea I love, because again, it just helps to satisfy any sugar craving. Delicious, absolutely delicious.
Now, you went from looking like you were in Holy Holy to looking like a tiger then, which is quite frightening.
It's Star Wars Day. I'm turning into it's May the 4th, isn't it? May the 4th. I'll be with you. I'm turning into a Star Wars character every time.
You said you'd make it entertaining. I didn't expect the special effects, so that's great. Jenny's just said, what have you got in your water bottle there, Jon?
So that's liquid chlorophyll in there. So from the alfalfa plant, it's minty. It tastes good. It makes it really palatable. So yeah, I'll throw that in my water.
What was that again? Liquid what? Sorry.
Liquid chlorophyll.
All right. And what is that exactly?
The blood of plants, basically.
Okay.
The blood of plants.
And how do you purchase? How do you purchase that? Is it a powder or is it a liquid or?
Liquid. So I just pour a tablespoon into my water twice a day. Yeah, and it just adds more greens to my diet as well, which is so important, you know. Yeah.
Brilliant. Living, walking the talk you are there, my man. Well done indeed. Just had breakfast, tea and ginger and lemon for the first time. We'll try this again. Yeah, adding ginger and lemon. And as you mentioned a moment ago, there's so many things you can add. What I would say to a lot of people is, go online, or if you've got my book, have a look at the ORAC scale. And the ORAC scale is the foods that are most dense in sort of combating free radicals. So it's the most antioxidants. So like it starts with the one you just mentioned there, Jon, cinnamon, but then oregon, turmeric, cocoa powder, cumins and so on. Go down the list, find something that you know that you like to consume, and then try putting that into your water. And then you're going to be fighting those free radicals at the same time. But how 50 minutes have just gone by so quickly, I have no idea. Thank you once again for coming on the show with your brilliant words of wisdom. And what's the rest of the day got lined up for you?
It's a full day today. I've got calls with one-to-one calls with clients and a team that I connect with regularly as well. So yeah, I'm chock-a-block for right through till 5 o'clock. Bit of an hour break in the middle of the day. So yeah, another busy one. It seems like the world is becoming more interested in health and well-being in these times, and that's an exciting time. So the world's ready to hear more about what you and me are sharing.
I think that, obviously this is a very, very bad situation. Can't underestimate how it's affecting people financially, how it's affecting obviously those that have had it and sadly lost family members. But there is a silver lining, and I think there are several silver linings. And one is, I think that there will be more people during lockdown being more conscious about the food they eat and having more time to learn and research. Of course, some will go the other way, but I think overall we're going to see a healthier country coming out the back end of this. Thanks, Jon. Keep doing what you're doing, mate. Your website has been up there all day long for everybody to have a look at. Jon Burgess, without the H, wellbeing.co.uk. And I'm sure Jon would love to help you feel and function better. Right, well, thanks, Jon. That was absolutely brilliant. Let's now go to Devon. North Devon, near Croydon, is where Emma Greenwood is based for the Trussell Trust. Good morning, Emma. How are you?
Morning, Steve. I'm doing well.
So don't tell me the sun's out in North Devon.
The sun is starting to come out, actually. I do have a beautiful view out of my window here.
Oh, bless. Well, my second home is in Devon, and I've not been there since October last year, and I can't wait to get back to Devon. So talk to us about the southwest of England. I take it you're looking after sort of Devon, Cornwall, are you? Or?
Yeah, so in my patch, I cover 25 food banks across Somerset as well, Somerset, Devon and Cornwall. So yeah, I'm really extremely proud of all the work that they've done over the last few weeks, responding so quickly and flexibly to the challenges that have unfolded before them.
And obviously talk us through those challenges, because I know, you guys have been doing a great job for so many years with your community centres, and not just, handing out the much needed food parcels, but also that community that you've been bringing together. You've acted as friends to many of the people that needed your support, but that's all changing, I guess, at the moment.
Well, some of it's changing. The way that they're operating is obviously changing. But as you say, our food banks are rooted in their communities. They provide support with all that local knowledge of what's most needed where they are serving. What we've seen is that even before this crisis, food banks were experiencing a steady increase of more and more people struggling to cover the basics and struggling to put food on their table. And actually on Friday, as a network, we reported that there was a staggering 81% increase in the last 2 weeks of March compared with last year. So we can just see the massive increase of people that have just been swept into poverty due to the fact that people are losing their jobs and losing their incomes at the moment. So as you say, the landscape changed dramatically and very quickly. Our food banks have had to change the way they give out emergency food. So many have turned to a delivery model where they are still having open sessions. They're obviously observing good social distancing. But the fact remains is that they're still there. They're still providing that support in their communities. Our food bank teams are really sad that they're not able to offer that kind of cup of tea and a listening ear that they obviously did so well before this crisis. So we're looking forward to a time when we will be able to do that again. But at the moment, we're focusing on doing what we can and getting emergency food to people and making sure that although it looks a bit different at the moment, that people know that support is still there for them.
Oh, it's so important, isn't it, to know that, people, I think despair and anxiety and depression can often be born out of people really thinking that mankind doesn't care about them anymore. And just to know that there are people out there giving support and helping and trying their best must give some level of comfort to those that are struggling to put food on the table. And I just heard you say there that, a lot of people obviously not being able to work and self-employed, but I guess also compounding that problem for families must be those where their children have school meals regularly provided and are now having to provide meals at home, adding even more financial burden to those that are struggling at the moment.
Yeah, that's a very key part in the figures that we released again on Friday, is that we saw that there was a massive increase in the number of families that are now coming to their food bank for support. It is a very significant issue for families at this time, as you say, trying to make sure they can get food on the table.
So what can everybody that's watching today do to help? Just notice we're at £21,936 of donations so far. So if somebody right now could kindly donate £64, we'll get to 22,000 during the show. Or between you collectively, let's get to 22,000 during the show. But on top of the financial donations, what else can we help? And just think about your area for now. What are you short of in those collection boxes, mainly inside the supermarkets?
Yes, obviously we're so grateful for the funds that are coming through. Finance makes a massive difference to our network. On a local ground, what we say is check in with your local food bank, look at their local web page or look on their Facebook page, because we're encouraging them to list the items that they're short of. I'd say as a general rule, UHT milk was in short supply, especially at the start of this crisis. So please donate that. I'm hearing tinned meat is also a bit of a struggle at the moment, and things like tinned puddings, rice pudding, tinned fruit often tend to be items that people don't necessarily think about when they're looking to make a donation to their local food bank. Most supermarkets have collection points in store, so it's always handy just to buy an extra couple of items and stick it in the collection point as you leave the supermarket.
That's great. Jack, I've got an idea. Can we put the list back up one more time of the foods that some of the foods that you're looking for? We're going to put the list back on screen, and then everybody watching right now, if you're on your mobile phone, why not take a screen grab? I think you press one side of the phone, then the other. You know what I mean? Grab a photograph of it, or if you can't do that, actually just take a photograph of it. And then that's going to be there in your photos as a reminder. And then next time you're in the supermarket, you can just pick up your phone and say, oh, what was it that the food banks are looking for again? and have a bit of a reminder so that we're putting the right things into those food boxes. Because I know also at the moment, I was talking to somebody else running another one of your food banks the other day that says, look, it really is really great that people are putting food in, but try and put the right type of food in, because we've got less people to take out the things that aren't relevant. So yeah, trying to get the right things in. Get a screen grab of that, everybody, or rewind back to a few seconds ago, and next time in the shop, have a look at the list, and as you put your kind of tuna in for yourself, put one on one side for somebody else. And thank you, Jack, my son, there, for reminding me it's not just about food, is it? You're looking for non-food items as well.
Yeah, a lot of food banks are really grateful to be able to provide some of those essential items as well, just to make sure that people have the things that they need aside from obviously essential food items.
Yeah, do you want to put that up one more time? And again, everybody at home, why not screen grab this, take a photograph. So next time you're when you're looking, oh, do they need this, do they need that? Then you'll know if it's on the list or not. But things that you would use on a daily basis at home, I guess, like soap, toothpaste, toothbrushes, toilet papers and so on. I take it they're all on the list there, aren't they, Emma?
Yeah, again, look at what your local food bank is putting on their Facebook page and websites, because they're really good at making sure that they're communicating with their supporters to get, as you say, targeted donations of things that are really useful to them.
And also, just so everybody knows, just tell me if my understanding is right, Emma, things don't go from your local supermarket to some massive big distribution centre and back out. They tend to stay, what you donate, you are literally donating, aren't you, to your community.
Yeah, it's very much a local response. So as you say, food is picked up by volunteers, generally from the bins in supermarkets, and taken to the local food bank where it's sorted and dated and as you say, put into parcels of food for people. So it's very much a community thing. The food that you donate, the tin of rice pudding, will go directly to a family in your local area, or a single person, whoever in need in your local area. It's a great response.
No, that's fantastic, because while we have got to think nationwide, in fact, we've got to think globally with this problem that's happening, sometimes it's good to just come back in and put your community first, and just knowing that. And also, you may be at home right now going, actually, I've got UHT milk in my cupboard that's been there for 6 months. I don't think I'm ever going to use it. Well, then why don't you clear the cupboard space out? Maybe you've been watching our program and you've gone, I'm going to go primal. I'm not going to have pasta or rice anymore. Well, go in your cupboard, take it out, check it's in date, drop it in the local food bank, because you don't have to go and purchase it all on the day. As long as it's in date, as long as it's on the list that your local food bank wants, you can walk into that supermarket and put your food in, can't you?
Yes, yeah, that's completely right.
Good
and I think
stuff.
the other really valuable thing as well is to be able to be on here and raise awareness, obviously how you can support your food bank practically, but also how you can support them, just as we're doing today, in raising awareness of the needs of food banks, raising awareness of the fact that people are struggling at the moment. And we know that hunger in the UK isn't about lack of food, it's about lack of people having enough money for those essentials. So we are also really keen to spread awareness that we are campaigning for a future where food banks aren't even needed at all.
Yeah, and to be quite honest, when your charity got in touch with me to see if we could help, that was the bit that really stuck out and resonated with me. I thought, here's a charity that ideally are trying to close themselves down, because that meant a lot to me. This wasn't a charity just being there for the sake of being there. It's, look, there is a problem. If we can fix the problem, then we won't need to be around at all. But right now there is the problem. So right now we need your money, we need your food, we need your help, because there are families in your area right now unable to put food on their table. And while I'm constantly promoting intermittent fasting to those that understand food, that have done all the reading and that have done all the self-help, that is not something you can do until you've learnt about food. And that feeling of real hunger is one of the worst feelings anybody can have. And as a parent, the feeling I would imagine of not being able to put food on the table for your little children must be horrific. So anything you can do at home today to help, that will be fantastic. Emma, thanks for taking the time out. I know you've got a really busy schedule today, and do enjoy the little bit of sunshine in Devon. I'm so envious that you're down in Devon. I'm going to be down there and see you very soon.
That would be great. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to everyone that's generously supporting this cause.
You're more than welcome, Emma. Thank you. So that was Emma Greenwood from down in Devon on the north coast, helping people across Somerset, Devon and Cornwall. Anything you can do to help would be greatly, greatly appreciated. Massive thank you for Jon for being on the show earlier. If you enjoyed it, please do right now. Just give it the thumbs up. If you super enjoyed it, then why not subscribe? And if you super enjoyed it, then why not share it with others? Together we can spread the word about the world. Oh, it would be good to get to the world, but just the UK will do for now. Spread the word. I'm so bad at words. Spread the word about what living healthy really looks like. And while we're all doing that, we can do our bit to help other families across the UK. Till tomorrow, stay safe. And I believe tomorrow, Jack, have we got Jen and David Unwin? We have. We've got the brilliant Dr. Unwins from Southport on tomorrow, which will always great to see them, and always very, very insightful too. Till then, stay safe. See you tomorrow. Join me at 10 o'clock every morning live on YouTube. Simply go to Primal Living's channel and you'll see our new food bank show. Now, the food bank show is basically what it says on the tin. We're trying to raise money for food banks across the UK that more than ever need our support. At the same time, in every show, I'll be joined by doctors and nutritionists that are going to help us reshape the food that we eat. Because maybe there's a bit of a silver lining for our health right now. All of the restaurants are shut. The McDonald's, the Subway, the Greggs, they're all closed. So we've got to change our eating habits anyway. But with the advice of the world's leading doctors, from the world's leading nutritionists, I'm going to help you reshape the food that you're consuming and hopefully boost your immune system to get through this very difficult time.